Good morning. Hey, this is your host, Jeff Ski Kinsey from FastChargeEnergy.com. And it's another great day. I actually recorded this podcast earlier this morning, and I got a phone call that made me shift directions. I was getting ready to post it, and it's like, wow, what an amazing conversation. Do you understand the concept? This comes from Proverbs, one of the books of what we call the Bible. And it says, iron sharpens iron. Okay, what's that even mean? Okay, the way I translate that, the way my father translated, who became an evangelist later in his life, is that by smart people talking with other smart people, guess what? They both get smarter, or the three of them get smarter. Napoleon Hill said, with this concept, the mastermind concept, he said, look, if two of you get together in a mastermind setting, he says it's as if there's a third entity involved. Okay? So I've said and continue to say it pays to have smart friends. Can I get an amen? Well, topic for today, focus, but not just any focus, a profound focus. Think of it as a force multiplier. Okay? Do I have your attention? Great. Let me give you an example. I'm driving a Tesla Model X, and it has what they call autopilot, full self-driving capability, and it has cruise control. So let's talk about cruise control. When I say that, if you've driven ICE cars, as we call them in the EV world, internal combustion engines instead of an EV, a battery EV, BEV, like a Tesla Model X, okay, you have a concept, as I did a few weeks ago for most of my life, what a cruise control was. You go down the open highway, you hit the button. Some cars you have to turn it on before you can hit the button, and it keeps the speed relatively the same. Our Jeep Wrangler does a great job of this. It's a V6, so it has enough power to address hills and valleys. And when I click it one notch, either to increase or decrease the speed, it increases or decreases by exactly 1 mile an hour, as near as I can tell. Extremely well done, okay? But here, if you're one of the smartest guys on the planet, let's say you're Elon Musk, and you assemble a team of some of the smartest engineers on the planet, they look at the cruise control and say, well, guess what? We can do better. Aha. Now, don't get me wrong. There are some trade-offs for this. Instead of having a button on the steering wheel like my Jeep Wrangler, actually my wife's Jeep Wrangler, okay, it has an extra stalk on the steering column right below the blinker lever. And it's a little smaller, and it is extremely intelligent, okay? It's not just cruise control. It's not just on or off. Here's what happens. So you're driving down the road, and you want to turn cruise control on. You pull the stalk towards you just once, and this is what might be considered a more traditional cruise control. But here's the thing. You no longer have to use the accelerator or the brake, because cruise control does that for you. Now, one of the things you got to be aware of is it also takes advantage of the Tesla sees and knows all. So if somebody walks out in front of you or a car cuts in front of you, it's going to put the brakes on pretty significantly. Yes. So you have to be aware that this is not just cruise control. It is much, much more sophisticated. But it'll pull up as you approach a light. Let's say it turns red. There's nobody in front of you. Okay. It kind of, in my opinion, waits almost to the last minute, and then it stops pretty quickly. But then it hits its mark 9 out of 10 times, if not more. It lands and stops dead on that white line that's usually on the road where the engineers for traffic control have said, this is where we want you to stop so cars can get through the intersection. It stops almost every time on that line. And here's the cool thing. When the light turns green, the car takes off on its own. Okay? That's what I call focus. Somebody, it's like back in the early days of the Macintosh computer, there was this guy, and Steve Jobs berated this guy, beat him up, because he knew he was that good. And he said, look, here's how many bytes, here's how much space you could have in the ROM, the read-only memory of the Macintosh, the very first Macintosh back in the early 1980s, which was released in 84. Said, you got this much space to make a text editor work, as I recall. Okay, this is from memory, so don't quote me. But he's like, well, I can't do it. Well, yeah, that's how much space you got. And he did the most amazing job. I was on the waiting list in March of 1984 for a Macintosh. I think I got it the next month. I think in April, I got one of the very first Macintosh computers. It was amazing. Guess what? So is Tesla, because there's this focus on the end user. What would make more sense? Nothing makes more sense than a smart cruise control. Now, it won't turn the car for you. You need the autopilot to do that. But what it does do is, A, it protects you. B, it helps with the mundane stuff. But I'm not done. Okay, go back to the stick. If you pull it twice quickly towards you, that engages the autopilot if you have it. But here's another cool thing. If you either push the stalk up or down, it'll increase or decrease by 1 mile per hour. But here's the cool thing. If you click it up further, so to speak, it's like a double click. If you lift it a little higher or push it down a little lower, it jumps to the next 5 mile per hour increment. Okay, let me say that a little different. I'm going to go a little long here. So let's say you're in a 35 mile an hour zone and you're in the middle of nowhere and you're asking yourself, why isn't this a 45 mile an hour zone? Okay, so you've put cruise control on, you pulled it once towards you, you're doing, the Tesla looks, it says this is 35, we're going to do 35, and you can adjust those parameters. But you're doing 35 and you say, well, this is crazy. So if you hit the stalk up, what I would call 2 clicks, okay, it jumps the cruise control up to 40, and the car speeds up to 40 mile an hour. And you say, well, this might be a little fast, okay? So now if you down click it just once or halfway, it takes it down to 39. And you look around and say, yeah, I'm not comfortable. So click it down one more time. But why 5 miles? Let's say that right now you're doing 38 miles an hour in a 40, okay? The double click only goes 2 miles an hour faster, up to 40. Because guess what? Most speed limits in America are in 5 mile per hour increments. Okay, there's exceptions to every rule. There's not a lot of 40 mile an hour, but it's easy to double click twice and go from 35 to 45. Not that big of a stretch. That's the kind of focus you need to bring to whatever you're working on today and every day. Okay? Focus is the force multiplier. And think of this, Elon Musk, when he's working on a problem for Tesla, that's the only thing on his mind. If today is Tesla Day, that's it. Or if today is SpaceX Day, like I bet it is, because of the launch tomorrow morning, that's going to be phenomenal. But today, all he's thinking about, and he's able to push everything else out of his brain and focus on SpaceX today. Can you do likewise?